Hello, everybody. It's Nana Marie in Quebec City. Whoa, this is probably the toughest month of my life. And I sure am glad that I don't judge what's going on with me. And I use my imagination to work for me, not against me. And that's because, I'm a clinical hypnotherapist in my last professional career. I ran a family practice out of West Kelowna, British Columbia, at the Family Wellness Treatment Center. But I just wanted to, provide my subscribers and anyone new here what hypnosis is. Because I know I was raised a Christian, and anything to do with hypnosis was frowned upon. And so I really avoided it, I didn't really care. Until, I think my mom mentioned it once. She bought a self-hypnosis book, and I remember her mentioning it to me. That often happened with my mother, who I later found out is a twin flame, my twin flame, and we were under contract together for our life experience. But let me go on to hypnosis. So that, way, 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 way back was when my mom gave me that little bit of a clue. And in giving me or telling me about this book. And then later on, when I was smoking, I went to several, what's he called? Ravine? I think he's called Ravine. He was in the Vancouver area about once a year to help people quit smoking using his group hypnosis. So you pay a fee to go into a group situation. You bring a mat, and he does a hypnosis script, and you're supposed to be able to walk out a non-smoker. He even goes through a dramatic thing where you put your cigarettes in a garbage can on your way in. And he did that because it's NLP programming with the hypnosis. Like neuro-linguistic programming is actually physically connecting your physical self to doing something in hypnosis. So by doing any suggestion whatsoever by anybody, is hypnosis, really. But let me go on. So, but it never worked for me, the quitting smoking thing. Um, and I found out later the reason why hypnosis will not work uh, for certain individuals is if they don't want to. If they really don't want to quit, they're not going to quit. If their spirit does not want to quit, their ego won't be able to. It's you're just not going to be able to quit anything or manifest anything good when um, when you don't want to, right? And ignorance of hypnosis plays a big role in that, not wanting to too. Because if you knew the value of hypnosis, which I'm going to explain to you how the value of hypnosis has benefited the leaders of our countries and profiteers of products using hypnosis. Let me explain about stage hypnosis. You've heard about that kind too, where a hypnotist at the at some convention center or hotel or something, a hypnotist will have a big audience, huge audience, and he or she will ask for, most often they're men that do this rapid induction hypnosis. I don't know any women that really could or would want to do it. But people go, and I've been to a couple of them myself, and one of my friends at Vancouver Hypnotherapy ran Harlequin Hypnosis in Vancouver. And what that basically was Rob Hadley, as a matter of fact, the one I'm going to talk about, rented out, space so that people would come and volunteer to go on stage and be hypnotized. Now, how that works is through how all hypnosis works. It's the imagination, using your imagination. And the imagination really falls under two categories of people, if you will. The category of the physical, where they take literal suggestions. Physical respond to parental, the paternal part of our parentage, the paternal part. Literal and speaking physically is more apt to work. For example, instead of saying, you should do this or you should do that, the physical hypnotist will say, do this or do that. Very simply. It will be authoritative, parental, and paternal. And the other side is the emotional type of person to be hypnotized. Now, they need a little more work. And so the emotional type just don't work on the stage because they need to be lulled into hypnosis. They need to hear a story. They need to be very involved in the imagination before they're actually hypnotized. So mostly I could never be hypnotized on the stage, ever, 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 because I would never do anything on command of anybody else. But that was even before my training in clinical hypnotherapy. Now, what he does at the stage is he speaks in physical terms. He has everybody sitting down, and he will do a couple of commandments, suggestions, and they will be told in a literal sense, a physical, a paternal, a command. And what will happen is about half of them, if not more, will begin to act this out, whatever he's commanding. He'll say, you're in a barnyard and you're squawking like a chicken. And then suddenly the the guys that volunteered will be up there squawking like chickens. Or even funnier, that chair behind you is the most gorgeous opposite sex or person you're ever attracted to, and you really want to make love to them. And it's a chair, right? But the hypnotist has the guys imagining what it is. And then they actually act out making love to the chair, much to the joy of the audience who are screaming in laughter at their hilarity. And I want to tell you what's going on in the brain of these people. One or two things is going on. One, they could have set aside their ego to let themselves play, because the spirit doesn't know the difference between fantasy and reality. The spirit does not know the difference between fantasy and reality. So if you can put aside your ego and any fear or shame of acting out something that you don't know what you're doing, then you're going to be successful. But 9 times out of 10, they're very aware of what they're doing. They're not in a blackout at all. They're acting. They're acting up for the audience. And we find that people, all they need to be told is something about what they're doing, and they'll believe it. They'll believe it. And then they'll act it out. And that's why, I continued on with hypnosis. I went for hypnosis in 2006 to quit smoking again. It was just before I was going to Cuba. And I wanted to be a non-smoker, I thought, but I guess not. And I went to see this woman in White Rock, British Columbia. And it was me asking her questions about her training that was planting seeds in me about maybe in the future I will become a clinical hypnotherapist. And it turns out that in 2012 I did just that. But yeah, I don't know what it is with people that get involved in hypnosis. They think it's some kind of big deal. And so they get nervous. And the woman in White Rock was really nervous. And, if you're going to be a guide to somebody in hypnosis, the hypnotist, for me, because I'm more of an emo person who has to be lulled, and that means instead of commandments and suggestions on the physical, they'll say, if you want, let yourself relax. As you allow yourself to relax, let go. If you want to just release the stresses of the day, let go. And then the client is to, they know in advance they should follow the instructions to get into a state of utter relaxation. We want you in real hypnosis, in real clinical hypnotherapy. We want you in a very, very relaxed state. Not asleep. Just your body is put to sleep at the delta level or beta level. the deeper you can go while being aware of your surroundings, still, the better. But the key is to put your body into a deep, deep sleep. So it's worth it to follow a guide, to have a guide you trust. That's another thing right there. Um, a guide that you trust lead you into a progressive relaxation induction, starting from the scalp all the way down to the toes. And then they'll use deepeners. A deepener is like going down. Have you imagine you're going down stairs and you feel the sensation of going down, and your body is relaxing more and more as you go down. And some hypnotists use going up, and they'll say, and now you're starting to go up and up and up. And they'll do a count up, right? Either a count down or a count up for a deepener. And then they'll do a couple of tests on your wrists to help engage your physical body in the hypnosis as well. And they may lift your arm up and let it drop, or some other maneuver to see the level of your body sleep. Now, body sleep. Now, I'm going to tell you a bit about the origins of hypnosis in the very, very beginning. It was founded about 3000 BC, I learned in my training, by the Greeks. They had Greek sleep temples, and they used priests or, elders of sorts to help people relax and use, whether they knew it or not, their imaginations. And they discovered through this process that after the sleep, if the priest kept talking, the people would have amazing transformations. They would feel more in control, or they would feel stronger, or whatever they wanted to manifest, if you will, from their selves. So it was practiced 3,000 years ago, and it's been practiced ever since, because that's where, my friends, the scriptures come from. The scriptures are transcripts, especially, there are wise men and women who have spoke about their experiences with guides and gods and whatnot. Sure. And we are spiritual beings. Give it that. But what has happened is they have used fear against people. And when you're in a state of fear, you are easily suggestible, let's say. And you'll want to believe in a storyteller. You'll want to. And you remember, anything in hypnosis, you have to want what you want. And so people want away from fear. And so they'll um, well, they used to anyway. Now people are addicted to fear. They're addicted to being put into this state of trance where they're just sitting there daydreaming a lot. Have you noticed that? So it is the scriptures that have brought the imagination. It's our history of the masses. And so it's a widespread belief now. It's NLP, neuro linguistic programming, where people are acting out for their God or for their fear. Acting out for their fear. People do terrible things. Terrible. And they're operating more out of uh, fear than they're knowing that we're spiritual beings. Nobody dies. We don't die. But if you think we do, well, we do. And, I've been hypnotized by I don't know how many doctors. The more the costume is worn by the hypnotist, the more I'm suggestible, especially if there's fear involved. And that's why I won't ever put a label to any of what I've been through in the last few years. Because frankly, I feel like I'm poisoned. And I use that in my imagination because that's what I want to. Because that I can control. Then I'm using my imagination to get rid of it. I spit it out. I physically spit out poison when I'm coughing up shit. Or when I'm in a lot of pain. I go into a progressive relaxation. In fact, I used hypnosis, self-hypnosis with my guide. I used my guide and my grandmother in my imagination to quit smoking on September 10th of this year, 1 month ago almost. I think it's the longest I've ever gone without even one puff. It was because I was ready and I wanted to save an extra $400 or $500 a month. That's how much I smoked. 2 packs a day. But when you wanna, you wanna. And I made the decision to quit on my birthday, which is September 11th. But I didn't want to smoke on September 11th. So I quit on September 10th at 9:11 p.m. I had my last cigarette. And I imagined myself having the last cigarette. And I put it out. And then I went into hypnosis with my guide and my grandmother. And I imagined them there with me, helping me use my imagination to see myself as a non-smoker. You see, the other part of the Bible that's really bad is how we go into judgment. We judge. And we judge ourselves and we judge situations and judgment is concluding. Okay? So when you've made a judgment, there's no more story coming in. You've made your decision. And all you can do from there is make it worse by imagining worse, right? So when you have a judgment on yourself, like you're going to die, odds are you're going to die. And your body will work in that, toward that end, dying, if you believe it, if you believe in the suggestion. And so I knew that going into this. I knew what happened to me at the hospital. I knew exactly what was going on. But, I was put in these situations to talk about here on my channel, to live as an example more than a teacher just feeding you a bunch of suggestions without any backup. I like to live what I'm teaching, and I have all along. All of my spiritual encounters I've really lived them through. Um, but with hypnosis, you can change your entire world using self hypnosis or a guide you trust. Um, you can find out how to do hypnosis by looking it up on YouTube. It's it's just getting your body to that very deep point. And people do it in different ways. They can relax by cooking or doing finger painting, as I got myself involved in. Oh, I got a lot of trance work done with my finger painting. You just shut the world out and you just do what you're doing, focused on what you're doing only. And you shut the world out, right? Basically, you're shutting the world out in hypnosis. And any way you can shut the world out. Music, people shut the world out using music. And you go into this blank place, right? It's like daydreaming, but you don't even know what you're thinking about. This is the most precious place to be. This is where you can talk to your guides. Remember, you're aware while you're doing your cooking or your music or your craft. You're aware of your surroundings, but you've put aside all your fear, all your worry, all your judgments, and you just let them go. And you let yourself play. Really, it's that simple. Now, I play by cooking, by doing finger painting, and I go into hypnosis oh, maybe a couple of times a month when I'm struggling, especially if I'm in a lot of pain, and I have been. And I believe what's happened in this last month is my body has totally seized up, my torso. And and I'm just going to keep on believing what I believe, right? Because I'm not listening to any other outside suggestions. Because I'm apt to believe it, and then who knows if you're right or wrong. It's best if I discover it, or you discover yourself for yourself. And so you can play around with it. It's a practice to stop judgments against anything or anyone, because you're going to create a bigger version of your judgment, and it won't be true. It will be hypnosis, and it could do a lot of damage to people. People feel your judgment. Empaths, in particular, highly sensitive people, actually feel your judgments. I can walk into a room and I'll know somebody telepathically, they just can't stand me. And I don't know why. I don't know what's in their imagination, what kind of look I gave or what kind of thing they see in me. But that happens a lot. The light, If you've got a little smile on your face or you've got joy, a lot of miserable people want to put your light out and they hate you. Trust me, I know. And the problem with being an empath, if you weren't ever educated on it, is you may think their mood is your mood, and you don't know why you suddenly feel anxious or judged or ugly. I didn't know why. I felt so ugly my whole life. Now I do. Uh, Empaths are telepathic and they feel the mood and the judgment and the fear of others and follow into it. And so oftentimes think they have this depression and anxiety when all they're doing is feeling their abuser, right? And that's what I learned had happened to me my whole life, is I was, targeted by a couple of narcissists, serious narcissists in the family, who are hypnotists. They have this air of commandment about themselves. They don't even have to say much. They're often the calm, quiet ones. My ex was like that. Just command a presence around him, especially children, unfortunately. But, you get a person that's favored by the majority, then the majority will support that person and they don't even know him or her. They'll just blindly support the idol or the image, right? It's all they got. They don't know what's inside of the imagination. And I know there are lots of people removed from their feelings through trauma of their own in early childhood. I don't know what makes somebody unfeeling and so miserable they want to do that to other people for a way of life. And I am talking about them because of the highly sensitives or the literal people, even, to be careful of whose suggestions you're taking. And make sure you really do know the inside out before you swallow that. And you know what you're doing. And you're not just having a belief system in somebody else's story. Because falling into that, you could potentially have corrupt leaders and or greedy CEOs. I just saw something on Facebook where it was a meme of about how all you have to do is put the word healthy or 0% on something and they think it's healthy or organic without digging deeper. It's just the word now is all they need, is the word. They don't need the background. They don't need the evidence. They don't ask for it. And so they can be easily led with a word or an image because people do not dig deeper. Other ways I have used hypnosis was I went to see Dr. Brian Reese. That's Weiss, I believe. He wrote the book Many Lives, Many Masters. He was a psychiatrist out of Yale or one of the big universities. And he discovered hypnosis with one of his patients who kept slipping back into past lives. And that can happen. When you are in such a relaxed state, you may slip into a past life. Although it's rare, it can happen. And I went to one of his conventions in Seattle. There's another guy there, a medium, what's his name? James Van Prow. He's a medium who spoke to the dead for the audience, right? And then he was coming to this convention with Dr. Brian Reese, who was going to hypnotize people into past lives. So I went to this thing in Seattle, and this was before my spiritual encounter, I will say. It was before I became a clinical hypnotherapist. It was probably around 2007 or so, I don't know. But there I was on the floor trying to get myself hypnotized. And the problem with male hypnotists is they're all literal and they give more commandments and they do lulling you into. And I needed more lulling. I needed more time to let my body relax. So it didn't work for me. I didn't know why at the time. I just knew it didn't work. And I went up to him. He was signing books. After I went up and I said, it didn't work on me. And I remember like it was just, yeah, like he was hypnotizing me right there. He looked at me with his crystal blue eyes and said, it'll probably come to you in a dream. And I said, oh, okay. And I walked away. And James Proud didn't do a reading on my dead son either. So, but all in all, it was a fun weekend. And you never get harmed by trying. Like I said, these things are a practice. You know, you've got to test the waters a little bit here, a little bit there, and see what works for you and what doesn't. So, anyway, it was about a month later that I had the dream where I picked my mother. It wasn't a past life, it was in choosing this life. And I was a spirit, following my mother, or she was just 10, wearing a red coat, so there's color involved, um, and running up a street I intuitively knew in North Vancouver. I was born there, she was born there. But she darted across this yard into a stucco house, a one-level bungalow-style house. You know, one of those 1930s type war-style houses. In when she was 10, if I was following her at 10, this would have been about 1950, because she was born in 1940. So the 1950 era. And my spirit went into her house, and then she was nowhere to be found. This dream is as vivid to me today as it was a month after I saw Dr. Brian Reese. So it was more of a event than a scattered dream. And it was cohesive, if you will. So I'll just finish it. Anyway, I was inside her house. It was rather dim and dark and depressing. I feel moods a lot. And I saw her grandfather, which was my great-grandfather Thomas, sitting on an easy chair. And for some reason later, my mother had asked me to name my son Thomas, Trevor Thomas. And I wanted to please my mother. She hated my guts, but I wanted to please her. So I did. So my son, his middle name was named after this grandfather I saw in the easy chair. And then I saw her mother standing over by her bedroom, and she put her purse on a hook. And then that scene was over. I was gone. I was in another space. And there were four, remember, I'm in a dream, right? There were four cartoon type beings in front of me. They were empty, empty, like empty cartoons, if you will. They needed a spirit to join them. And there was a male voice in the background. Didn't see the male, but I heard the voice. It said, "Who will bear the brunt of her anger?" And it was that little girl, I guess, that he was talking about. I guess she was going to have a lot of anger. And the blue beings in front of me, the second one to the right raised her hand. And it was at that moment my spirit went into that body and I was born. Cheryl Ann Grossclose at Lionsgate Hospital on September 11th, 1959 in North Vancouver. And I lived a journey. I thought it was very freaking, well, terrible, really, but because I felt terrible because of the fear and judgment instilled upon me and what we do to all children by allowing them to be afraid. We put them in a trance, and they're highly suggestible. If you notice, they'll do what they're told, right? So you get put into a state of fear, you're going to do what you're told. And it's at the point now where the media is creating a lot of fear. It's all I see. And it concerns me more for the children and people I see just in this kind of state of nothingness. And they're very, very suggestible to anything they're told. Whether they're told literally, and the media is onto it. They give stories literally in command tones like evacuate, evacuate, or lull you, with fear or judgment. And in my final words about hypnosis and self-hypnosis is you can take control of your own thoughts on a daily basis and learn to use your imagination without hypnosis, without being in a trance. Just be in a controlled state where you're not abusing yourself or you're not buying into outside fear, right? People want to draw you into their misery, guys, everywhere. And to save yourself, give yourself peace, is to remember we don't die. And the suffering is by our own making. I have learned that time and time and time again. The only person that gets in my way is me, with my own thoughts that I probably carry from my past. So it's not easy to neuro-linguistically program your brain. And what I've done, guys, and I've had such a joy doing it, is I've reprogrammed my brain to thoroughly enjoy what I am doing in the moment, like my cooking, I never used to take my time. I used to rush, just to get it done. And now I spend a lot of time creating out of nothing. I'll create a delicious meal out of a head of cabbage and a slice of ham. I'll think, what can I do with this today? Right? And make up things. Create it for myself, not, you know, just using my own senses from what I learned throughout my life. I know what I like and what I don't like. And so I I've really changed in that way, where I take my time in what I'm doing. And I've been forced to, guys. And I believe spiritually I was put into a state where I was forced to relax, go to bed, stay there, don't move. And that's what I've done for the last month. It's been, to me, a nightmare. But I forgot about my hypnosis, when you're in this state of panic and pain, and you don't know what's going on, and all you're hearing is bad news from the white coats, one disease after the other. I had to give it completely up and believe in my own imagination, because it is my creator of life. And we would be doing children a very big service by allowing them to play out their own imagination in a pain-free environment where they're not being judged, right? They know when the eyeballs are on them. They know when they have to act for you. They do, and it's just like the people that go on stage to get hypnotized like that. For a majority, or a lot of them, they know they're acting it up for you. And kids know how and when to go along with you, whether you're right or wrong. They know they have to when they're in fear. So that's my rundown. I think I don't have any more on the hypnosis and the imagination, and using your imagination in a controlled state where you're the one in control, and you're dropping thoughts of your past that don't work for you, that keep you in the pain. Last night I felt like it's been in my back where I couldn't really move, in my torso. I, I felt it went to my kidneys, and I felt it was beyond extreme, guys. And then I I felt myself in the middle of the night have a fever, and I was sweating profusely. And I got up. I can't believe I could get up. And I sprinkled water on myself. That's all I needed. I just sprinkled a little cool water on myself. And I instantly began to use my imagination that I'm cooled down. I'm in a blizzard. And then I did. You can control your temperature using your imagination. You control your body in every part using your imagination. And then I imagined myself using just my legs, because my torso didn't work anymore. Just my legs, and I kept hearing my guide in the background. Remember, walk with your legs, walk with your legs. Because I couldn't walk. But I got into bed, and then suddenly the discomfort in my kidneys, which I felt were inflamed beyond measure, um, suddenly the fever broke. And I literally felt it. Have you ever had a fever? And it just went away. And there was cool air all around me. And then I imagined the cool air was bringing me down back into the ground and safe again. You know, it's important to feel safe and protected. And we have to do that for ourselves, my friends. Um, I, we really are in control of of our fears. And I assure everybody, I've been talking about hypnosis and how you can change things on earth in your life, in your, whatever you want to give up or what you want to bring into it. You can use hypnosis. But more importantly, my videos have really focused on my spiritual encounters because that's who we are. We are spirits here to enjoy a human experience with our senses. And we don't need gratitude. It just is. It just is. And to have gratitude is more like servitude, But to have appreciation for what you're doing in that moment, that's self-hypnosis back to you, where you're involved in your own body and mind and your own senses, and then you're able to recreate with a new imagination. Some of you, like me, have a lot of baggage, and it took a lot for me to get my baggage unloaded. And fortunately for me, it was their choice. I would not make that choice. I don't do that. I don't judge people. I love people. And I wanted my family, period. But they turned their backs on me, even my grandchildren, and judged me or fear me. I heard words about me. I don't know. But for whatever reason, I'm not in the good books of their imagination, okay? And you have to just accept that. And I did. And this is when I knew I've got a story to live out. And I bet I'm going to live like my grandma until she was 94 years old and living a really good last 30 years, too, I might add. She did. She lived in a little house in Penticton on Chase Avenue with her new husband, Mike, from Russia, who she met on newspaper personnel's ad in 1968. She was married to him. And I'm told that I'm going to live to a ripe old age. So everything I'm going through is basically for my learning and discovering of myself, my capabilities while I'm living, and to share some of my sunshine with anybody who wants some. My only admission is that you do it yourself. I don't take money, and I don't do hypnosis for other people. I had to hang my shingle up. I sold my practice in 2017 when I couldn't take money anymore for it. I was making discoveries about depression and anxiety, and I became a target of people that make a lot of money selling something else to you. And so they don't like me. AI doesn't like me. And people that make money off us doesn't like me. But I keep going because I'm in this focus, right? And since I was visited by golden beings of light and my deceased son in 2016, and I wasn't at work, or I was at home lying on my bed in that in-between state, not asleep, but aware, and my body was physically exhausted. So it was trying to sleep, but my cat was playing on the bed, keeping me aware when the beings of light came. And they didn't come from my imagination. You can't make this shit up. Because having this event is like having a near-death experience. I mean, they filled me in on lies and what lies and corruption does to a humanity is it dooms it. When you're living by the word and you're not going by your own conscience at home, and you're instilling a lot of judgment and fear upon others, you spread it around like garbage. Yeah, we have, all of us. I, I saw a life review in this visit. My story is nothing what I thought it was. Nothing. And we will all find that when we cross over. Because we only have one side of a story if we haven't lived it out, if we haven't actually experienced it, or if we experienced it while we were in hypnosis. It will not be remembered at all. And Hollywood in the last 100 years has become a machine of creating hypnotized people who sit in front of the TV and think and create and imagine and water it. You know, the more you water those thoughts, the more likely you will act it out. And then more violence and pornography came. And the more we're seeing that being acted out, and against women and children. And, where's the strength in people? It's not there because they are in a state of trance, of hypnosis. And so anything I'm saying to you, I'm saying that you've been hypnotized too. You have belief systems that work against you. And you have thought patterns that work against you. But you think it's perfectly okay and normal because you're raised like that. It's ingrained. You don't know any different at all. And you hate me for saying this. But I'm just trying. What do you think, guys? I'll leave the comments open. I'm just trying to explain where I come from and my history in it, my actual history. And, I'm kind of tired of people giving opinions out there when they haven't lived it. They've just read or they were fed, right? And I can't believe a word out of that. That's gossip. You're going to get your life, and you're going to remember your life when you live your life in the present with your own human senses. And don't forget, you have more than 5, 6, 7, 8 senses. Every part of your being is a sense that you can control using your imagination. You can cure anything. I'll have to leave it at that. But use your imagination wisely. Appeal to your other higher self if you can't believe in the spirit world. And trust me, we all have spiritual guides. We have grandparents or future children in the waiting, and they can't help you on a literal sense, but they can inspire you, give you clues. The key is, are you in the present enough to notice them? Do you recognize when things shift around you? When there's a light shadow over there? Or when a song comes on that you feel is talking to you? Or you see numbers on a clock that just it rings something to you. They're all the same number all the time. Well, these are codes that I'm sure you have set up in the spirit world with your people that you're in contract with. And you are in contract with some of your worst people. Like I was with my mother. Oh, she hated me. I bore the brunt of her anger. Indeed I did, Dr. Reese. But I picked the role. I saw the dream. I saw what created her. And when you can have empathy and see what is creating our world and our unhappy mothers and our unhappy fathers and our very miserable children, is the media, is not living with our families with love and joy. And I remember my grandmother had so much joy when all the grandkids would come over. She'd be cooking up a stew or making up cots down in the basement for 10. 10 kids could stay. And then going out to her garden and bringing in the fresh veggies. She showed us how to live. She showed us. And here we're in a situation where we're watching it on TV or we're buying it in the package already pre-made. And this is losing the point of life. It really is a simple life. To me, I have discovered success is not succeeding. It's enjoying life. And can you imagine enjoying life? Well, I believe it's possible. And that, I believe, is going to be my next stage. The joy of my life. And I'll be the one creating it. Once I've given up all of this past, all of this pain, and I have put my imagination to use that works for me, all it takes is me hanging on and believing in myself above all others. Thanks, everybody. If you like this video, give me a like. And if you haven't heard me before, I'm going to be doing more videos to try to help people lift out of depression, anxiety, and teach themselves how to do it. Because there's no better teacher than one that teaches you how to live and do it yourself. No better way than self-learning. And you can do your own research on any subject. And make sure you get many views too. Like get different ideas. And then run with whatever idea works for you. Right? I don't take on any idea that I don't like or don't want to do. I add to people and their ideas. And that's how life can work too, is adding to what's already available to us. Like maybe you only have one head of cabbage and one slice of ham. What can you add to this, to make it great, right? So I'd love to hear your ideas about everything I've talked to in hypnosis And if you think, you know, that's something you want me to talk more about, let me know. And also, I'd like to hear more from you, to engage with you. And so maybe just tell me where you're watching me from. And maybe my algorithm will get better. That's what I'm creating in my imagination now. More engagement with my subscribers. And I hope you reach back to me, because it takes two to plug in. And I may not be able to reach everybody personally, and I won't be able to be honest. But I I'm here, and I am reaching out to you with this venue, and I'm using my imagination, that I'm helping you unwind the past and rewire the brain for a better future, not only for yourself, but everybody who's around you. Love, Cheryl Ann. And there we have it. Scalloped potato, diced smoked ham, broccoli, onion, a sauce, and toppled with cheese. I baked it for about an hour at 400, and I'm having it with spinach salad. Um, Take your time, my grandma said, and value everything you put into your body as a part of you. It is a part of you once it goes into your body. But even better is enjoy yourself. Take the time to play in the kitchen until you get it just right. Bon appetit.